things are moving very fast. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about The Promised Neverland Season 2, episode, I was going to say chapter for a second, episode 10, and this is a weird episode for me. Okay, listen, I have not had as nearly as much problems with this season as many other people, especially not the manga readers, because they are so angry because they skipped over an entire arc. I know that, and it sounds like they're doing some funny business with the story as a whole. I get it. I get it. I have not had a total issue. I've been kind of just along for the ride for the most part. This is the first episode I've really felt the pacing kind of slam me in the face. And the reason for that is it kind of like, so ever since they originally met up with Norman, things have just kind of been like, I felt it kind of weird. There's a little bit of weird pacing going on here and there, and it's kind of felt a little awkward, but now there's suddenly like no breathing room whatsoever, and everything's just off. They're off. Like, I can literally see them wrapping up the series for the anime in the next 2 episodes. I can just see it happening right now. Everything's falling apart. That's just it. And the kids get out on episode 12, if that's even how many episodes there are. I assume there are, because that's how many episodes there were for the first season. But like, I can literally see it just like wrapping up in the last episode, and that's a problem. So this episode covered a lot of things. First of all, Vincent was not a traitor whatsoever. He was actually setting up Peter Rattray for whatever, for their plans, that Rattray thought that he was going to have the upper hand, but in the end, it was for not. It was actually part of Norman's plan to get them and help save the children. So the beginning of the episode is them doing all their prep and like kind of tricking the institution into thinking that they have the upper hand. And then that's they build or put together air balloons, like hot air balloons. And that's kind of where things start to go off. It doesn't feel like there's any breathing room between the last episode, where like we were coming off of the whole big thing with the town getting set on fire and like the gas spreading and everything, and now suddenly we're attacking the farms, and it's just like there's no breathing room. This is like the first time I've really felt the pacing, and it's kind of upsetting to me that I've gone basically almost every episode being like, yeah, you know what, hey, at the very least it was enjoyable in some capacity. And I still think that this episode had some good points, but it's the first episode that's really made me feel like, I don't know how to feel. In any event, the kids are attacking the farm system. We got to see Phil. Oh my god. Okay. Highlight of the episode is seeing Phil for the very first time. Oh, he's a little baby. I really miss Phil. I didn't think that I would, but I missed him so much. The demons and the bad guys think that the kids are coming to attack the individual farms, so they're like, okay, let's bring all of the kids in from the farms, and we're just gonna ship them out, or at least take them somewhere else. And so Phil and all the other individual farms, with all the kids basically, are now being shipped out, and Phil's like terrified because he knows what it is, and all the other kids that weren't part of the Gracefield farm, they don't know, so they're all like, okay, we're all going together, da, 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 da. And so they all get shipped to their gates, their individual gates, and it becomes very apparent that Emma's group is not really, the plan is not going exactly the way that Peter Rattray thought it was going to go. So they shoot down a bunch of the balloons, but they're all traps and big explosions. I thought that was a pretty good twist, even though it was kind of obvious. And that's when Norman's crew jump out of other balloons and they're attacking, and there's some good like action scenes, and Sonju is there to kind of back them up. Meanwhile, Emma, Norman, and Ray are inside with their kind of like covert ops crew, and they're like taking over the systems because they're super smart, and basically kicking off the like Peter Rattray and his like the main demon or whatever, one of the main demons running the facility offline, so that they can get the kids away from the mothers, which they are now with. And so that kind of fills in the gaps where it's like, okay, if Isabella is off being a grandmother now and doing some other stuff, then who's watching over the kids. I guess there were always other mothers anyways, but like it explains a lot. Meanwhile, they also have some kids kind of sneaking in. So they went to apparently like a storeroom to dress up in like the hat and like the blazers or whatever. And they had some kids like kind of go off to the different gates to kind of meet up with their friends that we prior knew. So Phil and other kids that were in the Gracefield farm that got separated out to give them messages to be like, hey, listen, when the lights go out, run and pretend, like, play tag. Go play tag. Just get out of there. And make sure to spread the word to the other kids. The other kids don't necessarily know what's going on, so it's actually kind of interesting that they have to like organize their individual groups and have the kids that were sent from Gracefield to the new farms and have everybody kind of get together. So the ultimate goal is to get all the kids onto a giant elevator to send them off to the human world. And just as they're getting all the kids together and things kind of seem to be going very well, and I kind of figured something was going to go bad here, just as they have everybody kind of getting together and Norman's crew are kind of showing up, and that's when Peter Rattray shows up and he's like, it's not gonna happen. Nope. He shows up with Mama, Isabella, who is now a grandmother, and they have a whole crew of moms with guns, and it's kind of a weird look. It's just a bunch of people, it's just a bunch of women in like basically maid outfits and machine guns as well as Isabella. So the kids are surrounded and Peter Rattray's going off about how it's always going to fail, blah 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 blah. Pretty typical bad guy stuff. And they also mentioned that like, okay, so you guys had some pretty good plans. You set some of the farms on fire and you got all the kids together. That's cool. But no. And then he mentions that they had reinforcements coming from all around, and that they're surrounded, not just inside where the elevator is, but also all around. And in due time, they're going to have more demons coming at them than they can shake a stick at. Also, I completely blanked on this. I don't know why I didn't I don't know. Sometimes things just fly right by me. Peter is actually William Minerva's brother. William Minerva is actually William Rattray, and they're brothers, I guess. I don't know. They must have mentioned it at some point, and I just completely blanked on it. I'm certain I did not touch on that at all, so that's a thing. In any event, everything's converging on this one point, and just as you think that the kid all is lost, and you really don't think that because it's like, what are the kids gonna die? That's when Isabella turns coat. She actually turns to be like, so she's kind of a complex character in a sense, because it's like, on one hand, she is one of like the moms or now grandmother of the farm system and all that, and she's basically been on their side this entire time. She's willingly sent off kids to their deaths, so it's not like she's a good person, but she's also kind of shown that she does care about the children from her farm to some degree. So she's always been kind of teetering on that edge of like, well, does she care enough to actually act on those feelings and help them, or is it all just superficial? She just feels bad about it in general. So she kind of backs them up and she's like, well, no, I'm going to point my gun at you. And I guess all the other moms are kind of on the same side. And it turns out that when the power went out and the system got hacked, that the devices in their bodies got shut down. So they're no longer tethered to the system at all, and they're free to do what they want. And I guess they want to shoot at the demons and Peter Rattray. Doesn't faze Peter because he's still got his backup, but that's when another twist that I kind of do like. I like that they brought back the demons from that town that got gassed, even though technically Norman was in the wrong there. It turns out that all those demons have now been turned into like the demon blood, like the evil blood thing. They've got their blood figured out with Mujika and Mr. Vilk and the old demon. And so now they're all independent from the farm system, and they want it's become a revolution for them. So they're blocking any backup that Rattray was gonna have, and everything's kind of getting back into place again. The episode ends with Rattray basically going off and evil monologue. Oh, you're gonna start that like conflict again from 1,000 years, blah 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 blah, and like talking, basically being like, the ends justify the means. You don't want to have that war again, blah, 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 blah. And that's when Emma says, hey, yo, listen, I just want to see a world that we can do whatever and everybody can live relatively happy, both demons and humans. And if demons don't have to eat humans, that kind of solves at least one problem. Uh, and then she offers for him to come along or whatever. And that's where the episode ends. I think in a vacuum, this episode is not entirely bad. I think if this episode was one of many in terms of planning this whole assault on the system, and if it was like in a much longer anime series, like obviously the manga is much longer and does a bunch of stuff in between them leaving the farm in the first place and then now. So I feel like it's just like this is the first episode I've really felt like everything's been truncated, and in a vacuum, this episode on its own is fine. I don't have a problem with this episode, but it's the fact that there was no like there's been like little bits like, oh, they're gonna make a plan to get the other kids out. Okay. But then they just kind of do it and there's no build up to it. There's no it doesn't like other than like a few kind of like short scenes of like, oh, they're like getting supplies ready, I guess, in some capacity or making bows and arrows and whatever. It's just like it doesn't feel like there was any like significant build up. This feels like a finale for the entire series almost. It feels like we're headed into like I don't even know what they would do after this unless they all don't get out and something big and evil comes down and is like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna blow up the tunnels to the human world and you're gonna have to find a new way. And then they do something at a season 3, and maybe they do, I don't know. It just it doesn't feel like it's been earned, and I feel bad for saying that because as a whole I haven't disliked season 2. I like the elements of season 2, but now I'm finally starting to see where the people that have read the manga are coming from. It doesn't feel like it's been built up in a good enough or organized fashion. And not only that, but it seems like there was some like back when Isabella was first shown as like, oh, she's gonna become like whatever, she's getting out of the jail cell or whatever. A lot of people were like, oh, this is like anime exclusive. This is like a new thing. It doesn't seem like they're necessary. Like I don't know whether this was this type of scene or how this all goes down is exactly like in the manga, and it's just all been truncated into one short season. But it just seems like it doesn't seem well paced, and I hate to leave it kind of just as that on a negative note. Because I don't know. I like the characters. I like the world that they built up, but it just feels like things have just kind of gotten out of control here, and I feel like they really should have been thinking about doing this anime in a more long-running format, I guess. Again, I don't know exactly how the story goes as a whole. It might not end at the end of the season. There might be a third season and whatnot, but it definitely feels like it's the kind of thing where it's like there's a revolution of demons that are like civilians, and they're just like, we're not having it anymore. The farms are basically being destroyed. It seems like everything's wrapping up, and it doesn't feel it feels undeserved to some degree. And it's such a weird episode because I'm like, honestly, like even though I just went over everything, I'm kind of having a hard time organizing my thoughts about it because it just doesn't feel something's not right. And again, I hate to be negative about it, but that's just like that's kind of I like the parts of this episode specifically. But I don't like the placement of it in the season or in the series. I wish that there was more breathing room between events like the town being bombed the heck out of and this happening. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm bumming myself out. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. And if you enjoyed anything I had to say, make sure to leave a like. It's weird to ask people to like something that I'm being relatively negative about. But if you agree with me, leave a like, I guess. And I will see you guys in another video. So long.